Assalamu alaikum, peace be to you, power to the people, brothers and sisters. I hope that you are all in a state of humanity and that you are protected from those who have a beastly nature and character, inshallah, God willing. This brief video is going to be a continuation of my previous video in which I mentioned the Black Panthers and bank robbery squads. And I had mentioned to you that I have completed writing my autobiography. Okay, this is one of my autobiographies. This one is called Black Panthers, Revolutionary Gangsters. Black Panthers, Revolutionary Gangsters. You see this right here? All of this is the book. I'm thinking about I may have to break it down in half. And I'm going to read just a couple pages to give you an idea of how it starts off so you can formulate your own view and opinion. Okay, my basic introduction is that this book, okay, is dedicated to my family and friends. And I start out with an ayat or verse from the Quran, the Muslim book of guidance. So do not become weak against your enemies, and be not sad, and you are superior if you are indeed believers. And you can find that in Surah 3, verse 139, or ayat 139. Okay, I'm going to read a little fast because I want to try to get these couple pages in and give you all an idea of what this is about. All this is real, no fake, no added drama. Like people, I read something, somebody said they shot somebody in the head, they seen the bullet flying, they heard the bullet crunch the skull and all of that. That's, well, if they did all of that, if they can see the bullet flying out the barrel, you know, I mean, they just might as well be Superman. Because I done fired a lot of guns at a lot of people, and you see the flame, but nobody's eyes actually sees the bullet traveling from the barrel and actually hitting the target. Okay, what you actually seeing is the after effects. You can hear it and you see the flame. But that's basically it. But people put dramatization to give people, I guess, a little added thrill, you know, of make-believe to entice them to like it more. My book is not like that. Straight up, raw reality, the way it was. Now let's get to it. The first chapter is called The Chemical Bank Sticker. My heart was beating fast and pounding in my chest. My hands were moist with anxiety. I realized my nostrils were wide open as the adrenaline flooded my body. I was hyped up and my mind seemed to be in a super state of consciousness. I could feel the power right now in my squad and myself. It was unanimous, and I feel this attitude of confidence and determination. The real power wasn't the money in the bank that we planned to rob. The real power was being able to take that money by force. 5 young black men with guns intending to rob a big bank in daylight on a busy street in New York City. A bank protected by the United States government and owned by the super rich white establishment of America society. This would be a bold and daring revolutionary statement backed by powerful actions. This was the moment I lived for, the ultimate goal of a revolutionary gangster. Not a stick-up kid, but a stick-up artist. I also realized this would be the biggest payday of my life at the age of 16. It was October 16th, Friday morning at 10 a.m. as the white 1965 Chevy slowly drove past the Chemical Bank of Northern Boulevard in Queens. There were 5 black men in the car, 2 seated in the front and the driver, 1 on the passenger side and 3 sitting in the back. As the Impala turned the corner and stopped on the side of the bank, George, the leader of our stick-up squad for this bank robbery, was sitting in the front seat of the car on the passenger side. Everyone thought of George as a mastermind when it was about doing big-time stick-ups on establishments. I knew George about a year and a half at this time, but during that time, we really got to know each other. I had a lot of respect and love for George, and I looked up to George somewhat like a teacher, a genius, and a revolutionary father figure. Almost on the same high level in the way I looked up to Big John, who was the captain of the Black Panther Party, who organized me, revolutionized me, and whom I proudly served under as a dedicated Black Panther revolutionary. George was old enough to be my father. He had 3 kids, and his oldest son, Ray, was 3 years older than I was. Ray and I had done stick-ups together in the past, along with my crew, but the feds had busted Ray, and he was being held on a $100,000 bail at that time. George and his son Ray were not Black Panthers, but they were revolutionaries. Ray was just a fly guy, mainly a street corner dude, trying to be hardcore stick-up cat like his pop, George. George was really hardcore. He was a badass old dude, yet as hip as me, the youngest teenager in our squad. George was cool. He was the jazz man, and his instrument of delight when he wasn't doing stick-ups was a jazz guitar. Boy, could he play that guitar. He had strong principles and codes of conduct and considered himself a self-proclaimed Black revolutionary gangster. When it came to the young, righteous brothers, George had nothing but understanding and love for us. But when it came to stick-ups, George was a different person. Very professional, ice cold, and very dangerous. George was the mastermind. He set this score up. He planned every detail of the Chemical Bank sting. I never seen or had been in this bank before. George had a detailed layout of the bank that he drew on a large paper the night before. Each of us knew our roles, our own positions, and the timing. Timing was very important. It meant success or failure, freedom or prison, life or death. George was very confident in each of us and our ability to rob this bank that we never seen before and do the job righteously and get away. I also realized that George had more confidence in me than any of the other brothers in the squad. George told me, "Gee, you are the youngest, but you are the baddest and the boldest. You got more heart than the boldest gangsters I ever known. You're smart, you learn fast, and you think fast, even under pressure. You're quick and brave like a young lion." That's why George gave me the role, picked me above the others to walk side by side with him to disarm the bank guard. George took a quick glance out of the window of the car on the passenger side, pushed his sunglasses up toward the bridge of his nose, then turned his head toward the driver of the car as he spoke in a calm manner with his smooth, soft-toned voice. Everything looks cool. There aren't any pigs in sight on the streets. The bank is very crowded. I didn't see the guard when we drove past, but he's in there, and G and I are going to take him down. Pringle, hold us down, righteously. Any pigs come on the scene while we're inside doing our thing, blast them as soon as they get out their car, 'cause we're coming out that motherfucker by any means necessary. And remember, don't move the car until the last brother is back in it. Pringle, the driver, looked over his shoulder in the direction of George and responded in a heavy, confident voice with sort of a country accent. He said, I ain't going to come out. I ain't going to move the car until the last brother is back in. Pringle, the driver, was the only one that I had never met before. And he added, you all down righteously on this side, no doubt. George nodded his head up and down and said at the same moment, no doubt. At that moment, Pringle had reached down to the floor with his right hand and picked up the 12-gauge pump shotgun and rested it on his lap, with the barrels facing the driver's door. Pringle was the only one, as I mentioned, in the squad that I had very little knowledge about. In fact, the night before this bank robbery was the first time I met him or ever heard about him. But that was cool because George said Pringle was cool. And to me, George's word was worth more than gold. And I knew George had keen insight and always tested brothers on different levels before he gave them any trust or let them get close to him or do any kind of jobs with him. When it came to stick up, George only picked the very best crew. When I arrived at the safe house the previous night on October 15, 1970, I walked through the gate of the front yard. George opened the front door of the house. It was a nice two-family house. We directly went upstairs and into a spacious living room. As we entered the living room, a fine sister greeted us. She was pretty. She had big eyes and a big natural smile. Her complexion was caramel brown, and she appeared to be in her mid-20s. George introduced us. Her name was Cookie. The top half of the two-family house was Cookie's pad. She had 2 young kids, and they were staying at a relative's house while we were there. George told me Cookie was a gangster sister, and she had been casing this bank for a while for him. A big brown-skinned brother with a bald head who appeared to be in his early 40s was sitting on the sofa in the living room. George introduced him as Pringle and said he would be the driver. George mentioned that Pringle was cool, a down brother, and was the driver for George and some other older cats when they had robbed a bank in Chicago during that summer. Brothers and sisters, that's a couple pages from the first chapter. I hope that you found it a little interesting. It gets much more exciting and dramatic if that's the flavor that you like. And it gets political and it also gets educational. So with that, my brothers, I'm going to close. Wishing everybody the best. Travel in peace. Watch out for the beast. And remember, always use analytical thinking. Don't believe what anybody says until you investigate, okay? Because there's a lot of craziness going on out in this world, and people are doing a lot of crazy stuff. That what you think is good, sometimes it's not. I'm still trying to figure out why Biden spent $1 million on a bathtub for his wife before he moved into the White House. I'm not talking about fixing up the whole bathroom. He paid $1 million just for the tub for her. Now I'm trying to figure, what is this tub made out of? Is it made out of gold? Is it made out of what? What? Even silver. I mean, come on, $1 million just for a bathtub? Is he saying that Trump and his family was that filthy or that nasty? She wouldn't move in there until the tub had been replaced before they moved into the White House. Ain't that some deep stuff, you know? If I had $1 million in my pocket right now, I definitely wouldn't spend it on no bathtub. If I had a few million, I wouldn't spend it on just a bathtub, even if I was living in a mansion. So with that, brothers and sisters, remember, again, Salam Alaikum, power to the people, be a human being, and tell the beast, give back. Destination is the fire.